This afternoon, Janet Yellen, chairwoman of the Federal Reserve, will issue a news release about the findings of its two-day meeting, which ends today. The issues at hand are the strength of the job market and the possibility of an interest rate hike. This particular release has many on edge or being cautious, as evidenced by the massive swings in financial markets yesterday, among other things. Joe Krier, president of Krier Wealth Management, back here on the morning show to talk about Fed policy, what's expected. Nobody really expects a big change in rates this go-round. They're going to be listening for a nuance, like a change in wording that hints at something by, what, mid-year?
Yeah, definitely. You know, the Feds have been kind of stimulating the economy for 6-8 years now, since the bottom of the 2008 recession. And, you know, they're charged with maintaining full employment and controlling inflation. So what they've started to do here over the last few years is try to project out by 3 to 6 months what their actual next action is going to be. And they're concerned about nursing this economy along, and at the same time they don't want all this jet fuel they've thrown on the economy to get going and then have runaway inflation.
Let's talk about that balancing game. You said the two key issues are, number one, maintaining employment, and number two, controlling inflation. These are all things that go back to the recession that started in 2008, trying to dig us out. It's a slow process, but the fact that it's a slow process isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, taking this long to recover doesn't make someone who's out of work feel very good, for sure. However, if it recovers too quickly, then you whipsaw to the upside, and all of a sudden the Fed's having to raise rates aggressively to slow things down. So hopefully what we're doing here is putting in a solid foundation for a long run-up in the U.S. economy. And as it looks right now, the U.S. is pretty much set up to be one of the strongest, or the strongest economy on earth.
And the fact of the matter is, we may have the strongest economy on earth, but everything's influenced by a global economy, and people are looking across the pond to something that happened recently in Europe.
Yeah, for sure. I think some of the volatility we've seen in the markets here is trying to sort all this out. You know, part of it is earnings and what's going on with multinational companies, but the European Union announced a quantitative easing program that was larger than the one we enacted back in 2008 and 9, and it's got, you know, the U.S. Central Bank looking at that and saying, wow, was Europe on the precipice of all-out depression or deflation there? And, you know, there's a lot of fear of that because, of course, they buy so many goods from us, and we're all interdependent on each other. And it's not just a matter of watching our own central bank. We've got to watch Japan, Europe, China, everybody simultaneously.
And with the possibility of a rate hike sometime this year, probably safe to say sometime in the next 6 months,
I would say.
Let's bring this home. I know 30-year mortgage rates aren't exactly affected by 30-year Fed fund rates, but the reality is it has an impact. Do we lock in a mortgage now and play it safe?
It's not a bad time to look at that, and we have seen refinancings go way up. It is true that the Fed's rate is sort of the base rate, and everything else from CDs to mortgages sort of resets eventually on top of that. I don't think they're going to raise rates aggressively, so you're not going to see mortgage rates jump from 4 to 6 or 7, but it's not a bad time to be looking at that, locking things in, and if you're sitting on a higher mortgage rate, it's not a bad time to think about a refi right here.
And a quick 20-second look into the crystal ball. You said that the process of recovery and healing from the recession of 2008 has been slow. How long before we've pulled out?
You know, I think it's safe to say that we are pulling out here. You know, the quality of the recovery hasn't been great, but it's picking up steam. We have the huge benefit of lower gas prices now, which is like a tax cut to everybody in America. And the one thing that's still on the table is wage growth. You know, we want to see people who have jobs but have good paying jobs, and they're getting consistent raises.
But you're not going to give me a time frame. Smart man.
Yep.
Joe, thank you very much.